Her old friend invited her to the wedding, just to humiliate her in front of hundreds of people. A whisper broke out across the room. "Oh my God, that dress must have come from a thrift store." Another former classmate hissed through her teeth. "Still living that real girl life, huh? Isn't your poor past shameful enough?" Then the bride appeared. Red lipstick, crystal-stitched gown sweeping the marble, voice slicing through the million-dollar wedding air. "I told you not to send her an invite. She's embarrassing." Security stepped forward. She was escorted out of the main reception. But no one in that glittering ballroom knew. They had just humiliated the wrong woman, because she was the groom's greatest benefactor and the wife of a billionaire. The chandeliers glittered like frozen fireworks, casting a golden glow over the ballroom of the Palais de Lumière, a six-star hotel perched on the cliffs of the French Riviera. The air was thick with the scent of tuberose and champagne, and the crowd, draped in couture and dripping with diamonds, moved like a living constellation of wealth. This was no ordinary wedding. It was the union of Vivienne LeBlanc, a fashion influencer with 1 million followers, and Lucas Beaumont, a tech entrepreneur whose startup had just sold for $300 million. The guest list was a who's who of influencers, CEOs, and minor royalty, each name vetted to ensure the event's exclusivity. Paparazzi were kept at bay by a small army of security guards, and the hashtag Vivienne. And Lucas was already trending globally before the vows were even spoken. Hannah Lee stepped into the lobby alone, her linen dress, a soft, square-necked piece in pale sage, swaying gently as she moved. The dress was simple, unadorned, falling just above her ankles. Her chestnut hair was pulled into a low bun, secured with a wooden pin, and her only accessory was a small, recycled paper package tucked under her arm, tied with twine. At 36, Hannah's beauty was understated but striking. Warm hazel eyes, a dusting of freckles across her nose, and a quiet grace that seemed to soften the chaos around her. Her flats, worn but polished, clicked softly on the marble floor as she approached the guest check-in. The concierge, a sleek woman named Camille with a headset and a clipboard, glanced up from her podium. Her eyes swept over Hannah, lingering on the absence of jewelry, the plain dress, the lack of a designer bag, and her smile tightened. "Service staff use the side entrance," she said, her tone polite but clipped, pointing to a hallway marked personnel only. Hannah's lips curved into a faint, patient smile. "I'm a guest," she said, her voice calm, like a stream smoothing over stones. She handed over her invitation, a cream card with gold-embossed lettering. Hannah Lee. Camille's brow arched as she took the card, flipping it over as if expecting a barcode or a typo. "One moment," she said, stepping away to murmur into her headset. Hannah stood quietly, the recycled paper gift held close, as the first wave of guests swept past. A trio of women in shimmering gowns, one in ruby velvet, another in black sequins, the third in a feathered ivory dress, paused, their laughter sharp and sudden. "Is that the caterer?" the woman in ruby said, loud enough for the lobby to hear. Her name was Elise Moreau, a lifestyle vlogger with the penchant for savage Instagram captions. The other two, Sophia Reyes, a beauty brand heiress, and Tara Klein, a reality TV star, giggled, their eyes raking Hannah's outfit. "What's with the gift wrap? Did she rob a recycling bin?" Sophia said, snapping a photo with her phone. "This is content gold." Hannah didn't flinch. She met Elise's gaze, her expression serene but steady, like someone who'd faced sharper winds and kept walking. "It's a gift from the heart," she said softly, her tone polite but firm. Elise blinked, thrown by the quiet confidence, then smirked. "Oh, sweetie, this isn't a craft fair." The lobby buzzed as more guests arrived, men in bespoke tuxedos, women in dresses that cost more than cars. They formed a loose semicircle around Hannah, drawn by the spectacle. A tech mogul named Victor Chen, his cufflinks glinting with emeralds, leaned toward his wife, Lila, and muttered, "Who let the hippie in? This isn't a farmer's market." Lila, draped in sapphire silk, laughed, her voice carrying. "Bet she's here to pitch some Etsy shop." A younger guest, an NFT influencer named Jax, called out, "Yo, wrong venue, lady!" Their laughter swelled, phones flashing, framing Hannah as a punchline before she could speak. Camille returned, now flanked by a wedding planner named Margot, a wiry woman with a severe bun and a tablet glowing with schedules. "Ms. Lee," Margot said, her voice dripping with skepticism, "your invitation is valid, but—" She paused, eyeing Hannah's dress. "This is a high society event. You don't seem prepared for the occasion. Perhaps you're on the wrong floor. The staff meal is downstairs. Hannah's fingers tightened briefly around her gift, the only sign of strain in her composed posture. "I'm here for Vivian and Lucas," she said, her voice even. "I was invited." Margot's lips pursed and she tapped her tablet. "Well, there's no name card for you and the seating chart is final. I'm sorry, but you'll need to leave." Before Hannah could respond, Vivian LeBlanc appeared. A vision in a mermaid-cut gown that shimmered with Swarovski crystals. Her blonde hair was swept into an intricate updo, and her diamond tiara caught the light like a crown. She glided toward the check-in, her entourage trailing like planets orbiting a star. Her eyes landed on Hannah, and her smile froze, then twisted into something sharp. "Hannah?" Vivian said, her voice loud enough to draw every eye in the lobby. "Oh my God, you actually came?" She laughed, a brittle, performative sound, and turned to her bridesmaids. "Guys, this is Hannah Lee, my old school friend, still living that, what do you call it, authentic life fantasy." The bridesmaids, Elise, Sophia, and Tara, burst into laughter, their phones already out. "That dress looks like it came from a thrift store," Tara said, zooming in on Hannah's flats. "And those shoes? Honey, no." Elise leaned in, her ruby gown rustling. "Hannah, babe, this is $1 million wedding. Why'd you show up looking like you just left a commune?" Hannah stood still, her hazel eyes calm but piercing. "I came to celebrate your day, Vivian," she said, her voice soft but clear. "The gift is for you and Lucas." She held out the recycled paper package, its twine bow simple but neat. Vivian's smile didn't waver, but her eyes glinted with something cruel. "Newspaper wrapping? Really?" she said, not taking the gift. "What is it, a coupon book?" "Oh, Hannah, you're so quaint." The crowd laughed, the sound rolling through the lobby like a wave. Someone shouted, "Send her to the gift table. She can organize the trash." Margot, the planner, stepped forward, her patience gone. "That's enough," she said, nodding to two security guards who'd materialized from the sidelines. "Ma'am, you're disrupting the event. Let's go." The guards, both tall and stone-faced, approached Hannah. One, a man named Paul, said politely but firmly, "Please come with us. We don't want to make a scene." Hannah didn't argue. She nodded, her shoulders back, and began walking toward the exit, the recycled paper gift still in her arms. The crowd parted, their whispers sharp as knives. "What a disgrace," Lila Chen muttered, sipping her champagne. "Who brings a gift wrapped in trash?" Victor chuckled, loud enough for Hannah to hear. "Bet she's crashing for the free food." Jax, the NFT influencer, posted a clip to Instagram, captioning it, "When you invite your broke friend to $1 million wedding just to flex." The guards escorted Hannah through the ballroom, past tables draped in silk, floral arches dripping with orchids, and a string quartet playing Vivaldi. Guests leaned in, their laughter a chorus of scorn. "Look at her, still holding that sad little package," Sophia said, her phone capturing every step. "This is iconic." As Hannah passed the floral arches, Elise, Sophia, and Tara closed in, their gowns a glittering barricade. Elise leaned close, her ruby lipstick curling. "You're a walking embarrassment, Hannah. Did you think we wouldn't notice you sneaking in?" Sophia flicked a manicured nail at the recycled paper gift, knocking it slightly in Hannah's arms. "What's in there, your life savings? Oh wait, you don't have any." Tara, her feathered dress rustling, grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing tray and accidentally splashed it across Hannah's dress, the liquid soaking the pale sage linen. "Oops," Tara said, smirking as the crowd howled. "Maybe that'll teach you to dress like you belong." The live stream zoomed in, comments flooding. "She deserves it. Kick her harder." Hannah's grip on her gift tightened, her face serene, but the champagne dripped like a public branding. Elise's livestream hit 5,000 viewers, comments flooding. "Who is she?" Total loser energy. Vivian posed for a photographer, her gown sparkling, and called out, "Told you not to invite her, Margot. She's embarrassing herself." Vivian climbed onto the stage, her tiara glinting as she grabbed the microphone from the MC. "Everyone, can we talk about this?" she said, her voice dripping with mock pity as she gestured at Hannah, now halfway across the ballroom with the guards. "Hannah Lee, my old schoolmate, thought she could waltz into my wedding like this is some charity event." The crowd erupted, their laughter a vicious wave. "Back in school, she was always the nice one, but look at her now, crashing my day with that rag and a gift wrapped in garbage." She held up a champagne flute, toasting the crowd, "To keeping our standards high, and Hannah out." A guest threw an olive, hitting Hannah's shoulder, and Vivian clapped, her smile venomous. "That's the spirit," she crowed, as the livestream comments surged. "Savage! Destroy her." Hannah's steps were steady, her face composed, as if the weight of their stares was nothing new. The ballroom stretched on, each moment amplifying the humiliation. Tara tossed her hair, shouting, "Maybe she thought this was a potluck!" The crowd roared, their cruelty a living thing. Paul, the guard, leaned in slightly, his voice low. "Sorry, ma'am, just doing our job." Hannah nodded, her eyes meeting his briefly. "I understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As the guards neared the glass doors, Vivian rushed forward, her gown trailing like a comet. She stopped in front of Paul, the guard, her eyes wide with feigned concern. "Officers, you need to check her gift," she said loudly, pointing at Hannah's package. "I heard she's been unstable since school. Might be something dangerous in there." The crowd gasped, phones swiveling to capture the accusation. "She's always been jealous of me," Vivian continued, her voice trembling for effect. "I invited her out of pity, but this is how she repays me?" Guests murmured, some shouting, "Search her! She's a threat!" Paul hesitated, but his partner grabbed the gift from Hannah's arms, tearing the recycled paper to reveal a hand-stitched quilt, simple but intricate. Vivian laughed, harsh and triumphant. "A blanket? You're pathetic, Hannah." The crowd's jeers peaked, the livestream comments venomous. "Psycho! Lock her up!" Hannah stood unmoving, her eyes steady, but the lie stung like a whip. As they neared the glass doors leading to the hotel's grand entrance, the crowd's taunts grew louder. Jax threw a cocktail shrimp, missing Hannah but landing near her feet. "Snack for the road," he yelled, sparking cackles. Lila flicked her fan, muttering, "She's ruining the vibe." A guest in a velvet tuxedo shouted, "Back to the thrift store, darling!" The mob surged, their phones filming Hannah's exit, her linen dress catching the light, her buns still perfect despite the chaos. She walked on, posture regal, but the crowd's savagery fed on her silence. The doors loomed ahead, promising exile. Elise's live stream hit 10,000 viewers, her voice gleeful. "This is Hannah Nobody thinking she could blend in with the elite," she mocked, zooming in on Hannah's flats. "Bet she's sleeping in her car tonight." Comments exploded. "Humiliating! Kick her out faster!" A guest yelled, "Make her trend for failure!" The internet devoured Hannah's shame, memes already circulating. She moved forward, serene, but the global ridicule burned, a wound no one could see. Then the doors flew open. A fleet of Rolls-Royces purred to a stop outside, their black and silver bodies gleaming under the Riviera sun. The crowd froze, phones still raised, laughter choking in throats. Julian Voss stepped out of the lead car, his presence like a storm breaking. At 42, he was a study in quiet power, tall, lean, with sharp cheekbones and dark hair streaked with silver. His tailored navy suit was understated but flawless, and his gray eyes held an intensity that could silence a room. The world knew him as the elusive billionaire behind Voss Enterprises, a luxury empire spanning hotels, fashion houses, and prestige brands. He was a phantom, rarely photographed, his life a fortress of privacy. The ballroom went silent, the quartet's music faltering. Julian strode through the doors, his steps deliberate, ignoring the gasps, the sudden hush. The MC, a polished man named Claude, stammered into the microphone, "Is that Julian Voss?" Guests exchanged stunned glances. "The Julian Voss?" someone whispered. "He never shows up to anything." Julian didn't acknowledge the crowd. He walked past the chandeliers, the floral arches, the aisle lined with gold-trimmed velvet, his eyes fixed on one person. Hannah stood just outside the main hall, near the doors, still holding her gift. Her hazel eyes softened as he approached, a small, private smile touching her lips. He reached for her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low, meant only for her. She nodded, her smile deepening. "Always, Julian." He turned to face the ballroom, his hand still holding hers, and raised his voice, each word precise and unyielding. "Apologies for the interruption," he said, his tone calm but commanding. "I just wanted to introduce the most important woman in my life. This is my wife, Hannah Voss." A silent tremor rippled through the crowd. Glasses clinked as hands trembled. Vivian's jaw dropped, her tiara tilting slightly. Elise's phone slipped, her live stream still running, capturing the shock. Comments exploded. "What? She's his wife?" Sophia's sequined gown seemed to dim, her face paling. Tara's laugh died in her throat, her phone frozen mid-record. Julian's gaze sharpened, his voice cutting through the silence. "Who ordered my wife to be escorted out, and for what reason?" No one spoke. The guards, Paul and his partner, stepped back, their faces ashen. Margot, the planner, clutched her tablet, her severe bun unraveling. Camille, the concierge, stared at the floor, her clipboard useless. The crowd's earlier bravado crumbled, their eyes darting, searching for an escape. Then a figure emerged from the aisle. Lucas Beaumont, the groom, his tuxedo crisp, his face a mix of shock and recognition. At 30, he was boyishly handsome, with tousled blonde hair and a reputation for charm. But his eyes weren't on Vivian. They were locked on Hannah. "Hannah," he said, his voice breaking, "it's really you?" He took a step forward, ignoring the gasps. "I tried to find you for years. You were the one who stayed up late helping me finish pitch decks. You and Julian gave me my first loan, believed in me when no one else did." His voice tightened, raw with emotion. "Without you, I wouldn't be standing here today." The crowd's shock deepened, murmurs rippling. "She helped him?" "They funded his startup." Vivian's hands clenched, her gown trembling as she stood frozen on the stage. Lucas turned to Vivian, his eyes hardening. "I can't marry someone who just humiliated the woman who changed my life," he said, his voice steady but laced with fury. "You mocked her, Vivian, because of a dress, a gift. You don't even know who she is." He paused, his gaze sweeping the crowd. "This wedding ends right here." Lucas stepped onto the stage, his face pale but resolute, the crowd's murmurs fading to a stunned hush. He faced Vivian, her tiara now askew, and his voice rang out, raw with betrayal. "You planned this, didn't you?" he said, pointing at Hannah, who stood calmly with Julian. "You invited Hannah just to humiliate her, to make yourself look better on your big day." Vivian's lips parted, but no words came. Lucas's eyes blazed. "I found your texts, Vivian, laughing with Elise about putting Hannah in her place. You used her to boost your brand." Guests gasped, phones now filming Vivian's frozen expression. "You're not the woman I thought I loved," Lucas said, his voice breaking. "This isn't a marriage, it's a performance. I'm done." He tore off his boutonniere, tossing it at her feet, and the crowd's cheers swelled, comments on the live stream roaring, "Yes, Lucas! End her!" A microphone fell, clattering on the stage. Gasps echoed, sharp and jagged. Vivian collapsed onto a velvet chair, her eyes wide, fixed on Hannah. Vivian stumbled forward, her gown dragging, her voice shrill as she grabbed Lucas's arm. "Lucas, please," she begged, tears streaking her makeup. "This is our day. You can't throw it away over her." She pointed at Hannah, her voice cracking. "She's nothing. Just a nobody who tricked you into pity." Lucas yanked his arm free, his face stone cold. "No, Vivian. You're the one who tricked me. You built your whole life on tearing others down, and I was too blind to see it." He turned to the crowd, his voice steady. "This wedding was a lie, and I won't live one. Hannah's worth more than all of us combined." He walked away, leaving Vivian sobbing on the stage, her tiara falling to the floor. The crowd's applause thundered, the live stream hitting 100,000 viewers, comments screaming, "Justice!" Vivian's finished. Her tiara slipped, dangling in her hair. The quartet stopped playing, the silence deafening. Elise's live stream surged to 50,000 viewers, comments flooding. "He called it off? Vivian's done." Jax's phone dropped, his NFT empire irrelevant in the face of this implosion. Hannah stood beside Julian, her hand in his, her silence louder than any speech. She didn't need to defend herself. Her grace did that. Julian's eyes softened as he looked at her, but his voice stayed firm as he addressed the crowd again. Hannah chose to live simply, not because she has to, but because she values what matters. She's my partner, my equal, and the heart of everything I've built. You judged her without knowing her worth. Julian stepped forward, his hand still holding Hannah's, his gray eyes sweeping the room with quiet authority. "You thought you humiliated a nobody," he said, his voice low but piercing. "But Hannah owns half of Voss Enterprises, every hotel, every fashion house, every brand you flaunt. This hotel, it's hers. The designers you worship, she approves their collections." Guests gasped, their diamonds suddenly garish. She's funded startups, rebuilt schools, and shaped industries, all without a single headline. "And me?" His lips curved faintly. "I'm just the man lucky enough to stand beside her." He nodded to Clara, who projected a screen behind them, a portfolio of Hannah's investments, billions in assets, flashing across the ballroom. The crowd was silent, awestruck, as the livestream comments exploded. "She's a titan! They're untouchable!" Vivian's face was gray, her world shattered by the woman she'd mocked. He nodded to a woman in a sleek black suit standing near the doors, Clara, his chief of staff, her tablet already glowing with data. "Clara, pull the guest list. Cross-check it with security footage and social media. Anyone who insulted Hannah, name them. They're gone." Clara's fingers flew, her face a mask of focus. The crowd held its breath as security fanned out, their earpieces crackling. Elise was first, her gasp audible as Paul tapped her shoulder. "Ma'am, you're leaving," he said, pointing to the doors. She clutched her phone, stammering, "This is a mistake!" But Paul was unmoved, escorting her past the floral arches, her ruby gown trailing like a fallen banner. Sophia followed, her sequins catching the light as she protested, her beauty brand empire crumbling with every step. Tara tried to hide behind a table, but a guard spotted her and she was led out, her feathered dress wilting. Vivian's exit was chaos. Clara stepped forward, voice clear. "Vivian LeBlanc, removed for defaming Hannah Voss." Guards marched her out, her crystal gown snagging on a chair, tearing at the hem. She screamed, "I'm the bride!" But the crowd parted, their silence damning. Paparazzi swarmed outside, their flashes merciless as her tiara fell, clattering on the marble. Guests whispered, "She set Hannah up." Online, her brand tanked, had Vivian LeBlanc trended globally, old tweets mocking the poor resurfacing, sponsors pulling out. Her empire of influence fell in minutes, her name now a cautionary tale. The ballroom was quieter now, the air heavy with reckoning. Lucas approached Hannah, his eyes raw. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice low. "I didn't know you'd be here. I didn't know any of this." Hannah smiled, her hazel eyes warm. "It's okay, Lucas," she said softly. "You've made me proud." Lucas crossed the ballroom, ignoring the stunned guests, and stopped in front of Hannah. His eyes were wet, his voice thick with remorse. "Hannah, I had no idea Vivian did this," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "You and Julian gave me everything, my first break, my confidence, my future. I owe you more than I can ever repay." He knelt slightly, a gesture of respect, and the crowd's breath caught. "You're the most genuine person I know, and she tried to crush you for it. I'm so sorry." Hannah's smile was warm, her hand gently touching his shoulder. "Rise, Lucas," she said softly. "You've made the right choice." The guests erupted in applause, the live stream comments flooding. "Legend! Hannah's a queen." Vivian's face crumpled, her empire of influence dissolving as Lucas's loyalty to Hannah shone. He nodded, swallowing hard, and stepped back, his future uncertain but his gratitude clear. Julian turned to Hannah, his anger fading into something tender. "You didn't have to come," he said, his voice for her alone. She smiled, touching his cheek. "I wanted to, for us." She stepped away, slipping into a side room for a moment. When she returned, the crowd's breath caught. Hannah wore a gown of ivory silk, its bodice embroidered with delicate gold thread, flowing like a river under the chandeliers. Her bun was undone, her chestnut hair falling in soft waves, a single pearl clip catching the light. She was stunning, not because of the gown, but because of the woman inside it, humble, fierce, herself. Julian took her hand, his eyes never leaving hers. The officiant, a silver-haired man named Father Emile, stepped forward, his robes rustling. A hush fell as he spoke, blessing the moment, though no vows were needed. Hannah and Julian had made theirs years ago, in a quiet monastery under Italian stars. The guests, humbled, watched in silence, some dabbing eyes. Victor Chen's cufflinks no longer glinted. Lila's sapphire silk seemed dull. Jax's phone stayed dark. The reception unfolded under a canopy of lanterns, the cliffs alive with music and moonlight. Hannah and Julian danced, her gown shimmering, his hand steady on her back. Clara approached during a quiet moment, her tablet dark now. "It's done," she said. "The internet's obsessed. Hannah's trending as the billionaire's heart. The clip's at 20 million views." Julian chuckled, pulling Hannah closer. "She is." Hannah leaned into him, her laughter soft, like a melody only he could hear. She'd walked into judgment and walked out stronger, not because she'd fought, but because she'd stayed true. The world would remember this wedding, Not for its scandal or wealth, but for the woman who'd faced a crowd and shown them what worth really meant. Hannah Lee Voss didn't need their applause. She was enough. If this story hit you in the heart, like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.